This is apropos. US and Israeli officials have been expressing growing optimism that negotiations brokered by Egypt and Qatar could produce a ceasefire deal for Gaza by the end of the month. But they've also cautioned that the talks could fall through. Hamas said today it believed an agreement was still possible if the Israeli side stopped adding new conditions to the proposal. It comes as at least 8 people from the same family, most of them women and children, were killed in the latest airstrikes on Gaza. Morgan Eyre has more.
Rescuers battle against the flames and thick black smoke as they search for survivors and bodies. It's the scene of the latest Israeli airstrike which targeted a house in the Daraj neighbourhood in Gaza City. This man is calling out, "Have mercy on us." According to Palestinian medics, at least 10 people were killed, several from the same family, including women and children.
We were surprised to find that most of the deceased were burned bodies, and the bodies were of children and women. Civil defense crews are still searching for missing persons under the targeted house.
Women were sleeping. This is not a combat zone. It is a civilian area with children and innocent people. A missile cut them into pieces while they were asleep.
Funerals took place in Gaza City for people killed in recent Israeli airstrikes. Israel denies targeting civilians. It says that any harm to them is a result of militants operating in residential areas, a claim Hamas rejects. The two sides could be coming to a truce. That's according to White House spokesman John Kirby, who said there was no doubt they were getting closer. But he added there was caution to the optimism.
In the Middle East, we're joined now by Henri Barkey, Professor of International Relations at Lehigh University. Thank you so much for being with us on the programme this evening, Henri. Firstly, let's start with Gaza. Hopes again for ceasefire. Observers point out, though, that we have been at this position before. Mediators up until now haven't been able to secure a deal. Do you think there is more reason to be hopeful this time?
There is more reason to be more hopeful because until now, if you remember, Hamas wanted a permanent ceasefire and the Israelis did not want that. And also Hamas was reluctant to release the names of the hostages. But so I think they've agreed on these things. It's going to be a temporary ceasefire, I think 60 days. But the reason things have changed is because there's a great deal of reaction in Gaza to Hamas because after 14 months of fighting, essentially people in Gaza are asking, so why is this happening? I mean, and blaming Hamas for having started. So finally, Hamas is starting to face domestic criticism, and that is very important to them. So they need to reorganize and rethink their strategy. So I think that's why a deal is possible. But as you said also, I mean, we've been here before, and it's possible it will not come, will not happen. But if it's not this weekend, maybe later. But I still think there's a good chance it's going to happen.
And these negotiations, this time brokered by Egypt and Qatar, just talk to us a little bit about the role that Doha has been playing in all of this.
Look, I don't know specifically what Doha is doing, but Doha is the most important Arab country in terms of support for Hamas. There's a historical relationship with Hamas. So they have a great deal of influence. And of course, Egypt also, because Egypt is next door and controls some of the access routes into Gaza. So I don't know specifically what Doha has been doing, but clearly Doha has always been the most important Hamas supporter in the Arab world.
And Henri, earlier today there was a lot of speculation about the Israeli Prime Minister's whereabouts. He later appeared inside the UN-patrolled buffer zone inside Syria and the Golan Heights after being excused from testimony at his corruption trial, which is also ongoing. How much do you think that may or may not be influencing his decision and what is actually happening in Syria and also in Gaza at the moment?
Oh, especially when it comes to Syria, I think what's happening domestically with Israel, with the indictments against him, this is very much a question of domestic politics. I mean, you've seen the prime minister being very kind of very full of himself, very determined, and basically doing whatever he wants. Especially the decision that was taken by the Israeli cabinet the other day of supposedly doubling the number of settlers in the Golan Heights. That's completely should we say, an act of theater rather than being serious, because first of all, nothing of the sort will happen anytime soon. This is a very long process, but it is a way of showing the nationalist part, at least, of Israel, that he's strong, he's doing what he wants. And look, let's face it, I mean, he has had a string of victories behind him, I mean, which enables him to take this attitude. I mean, Hamas has been destroyed, Hezbollah has been destroyed, Iran has been pushed out, and to some extent, what Israel did to Hezbollah and Iran explains why Assad collapsed so quickly. So, but he's risking a great deal here. He's alienating the few friends that Israel has left. He is also alienating a new Syrian government regime. We don't know what it's going to be, but he's not making friends, essentially, I would say, with a new Syrian, shall we say, government. And this is an opportunity because Assad was an implacable enemy of Israel. So you have now a new Syria. He should be making some moves, some overtures to the Syrians. Yes, he says he's not planning to occupy the territories that the Israeli army has moved in, and in fact, it doesn't make sense for them to do so. But still, there's a way in which you can articulate your message in a friendlier, in a more welcoming way. But he is, because of the domestic problems he's facing, he's very unpopular, by the way. That's the other thing that people forget. I mean, the Israelis are fed up with him, but he controls the majority in parliament, and the other parties that are with him are also in a kind of a trap because they don't want to go for elections. They don't want to bring down the government because they will lose if there are elections. Hence, it's a zero-sum game, if you want, that's going on in Israel, and he's making the most out of it. I don't think he's going to be successful. I think the Israelis are smart enough to at least those Israelis who don't support him, smart enough to see through what he's trying to do. But it will take time.
And Henri, you've said recently that political leaders can be very decisive, but at the moment we have the wrong leaders in many countries. We're going to have a new leader in the US very shortly. What kind of consequences do you think we'll see once Donald Trump comes back to the White House?
I think the right wing in Israel and also maybe in this country think that Donald Trump will be very friendly to Israel. Yes, he will appear to be so. But look, let's remember that Donald Trump is very much interested in one thing, and that's himself. So if at some point in the future there is an opportunity to have a major peace deal in the region, that even one that Bibi Netanyahu doesn't like and will oppose, you can be sure that Donald Trump will push for it. It doesn't matter whether he supports Bibi Netanyahu today or Donald Trump is likely to change politics or his position very easily. What I'm trying to say here is that Donald Trump is really an unknown quantity. You should not necessarily do a linear line from what he says today and assume that his policies are predictable 3 months or 6 months from now. Anything is possible. He shifts very quickly. And conditions, actually, if you think about it, I mean, the Middle East has never been in a situation like today where Iran, which was the main country that undermined, if you want, stability or certainly created a chain of fire, if you want, from Tehran to Beirut, has enormous amount of influence on Iraq, controls Syria and Lebanon through Hezbollah, can no longer do that. So Iran can no longer be a spoiler, if you want. And under these circumstances, I would argue that this is the best moment for a comprehensive peace effort. It seems unrealistic maybe today, because given all the fighting and all the violence and the suffering that we have seen. However, if you look at it from a little bit of a dispassionate perspective, this is a great moment. When Iran is weak, Russia has been essentially removed from the Middle East, and it's occupied by Ukraine. So there's very little those two spoilers can do. And if I was Donald Trump, I would definitely push for a big peace effort. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to succeed, but it's worth trying.
And Turkey is also playing a key role in all of this as well. Is there a danger, though, that Ankara, it might overextend in a way and end up interfering when it comes to Syria, between what's happening there in Damascus and the Kurds in the north?
This is an excellent question. I mean, in an interesting way, Turkey may emerge as a spoiler instead of Iran to some extent, not like Iran, but Turkey also is in danger of overplaying its hand. Turkey, you look at Turkish leaders, you look at the Turkish press, they're all very happy about the fact that everybody says Turkey is the biggest winner in this Syrian crisis, because Assad is gone and the new government in Syria will need Turkey. I mean, it makes sense because Turkey is the most industrialized country next to Syria, has all the wherewithal Syria needs in terms of construction, industry, etc. But the Turks have a tendency of overplaying their hand, and we're seeing this now, especially with the Syrian Kurds. The Syrian Kurds are Syrians, first and foremost, and Turkey has made it clear that it wants the YPG, the Syrian Kurdish militia, essentially eliminated. But that militia is in alliance with the United States, fighting ISIS, and the new government in Syria needs the Syrian Kurds as much as the rest of the world needs, because nobody wants ISIS to come back. And remember, some 40,000 ISIS prisoners are being essentially held in prisons in northern Syria by the Syrian Kurdish militia. If they were to disappear, what do you think is going to happen to those 40,000? They'll spread out everywhere. They will undermine the new Syrian government. They will undermine Iraq. They will undermine even maybe Turkey. So nobody wants the Syrian Kurds militia to disappear, because they ensure a great deal of stability. But the Turks are very much afraid of the Syrian Kurds, not because the Syrian Kurds represent a military threat. They represent essentially a strategic conceptual threat. That is to say, the Turks are very afraid of another autonomous Kurdish region on their borders.
Henri?
Yeah.
Apologies for cutting across you there. I cut into your sentence, but we'll have to leave it there, unfortunately, for now. But thank you so much for being with us. That is Henri Barkey, Professor of International Relations at Lehigh University. That is it from us for now. Up next, it's Eye on Africa.